What I'm going to do is I'm going to list out or present to all of you 3 recent successes of our country, India. The first of these recent successes, as you can see on the screen from the photos there, is our Chandrayaan-3 mission to the moon, which landed successfully on the dark side of the moon. This was the first of my list of 3 recent successes of India. The second was the successful hosting of the G20 summit in New Delhi, and all of you can see the photographs and have seen the photographs of this on your television screens. But what was also very important was the fact that we were able to convince all the leaders who were present in New Delhi from the 20-odd nation states, the most powerful nation states across the world, to unanimously agree and come to a leader's statement, which was considered a great feather in India's diplomatic cap. And the third item, the third thing which I would like to list is, of course, our recent fantastic sporting experience, our sporting experience at the Hangzhou Asian Games, where India, for the first time ever, won more than 100 medals in all. And that's the Indian women's cricket team winning one of the earliest gold medals, and so many other ladies who won fantastic races. My question to all of you, what connects the dots? What is the common thread which runs through each of these 3 recent successes of India? And to me, a practitioner, a former practitioner of diplomacy, a current researcher and analyst on international relations, the answer is that all these 3 recent events and successes of India point to our rising, growing, expanding, comprehensive national power. Now, this is a term, this is an idea, this is a concept which is used most usually and frequently in China, where they believe that each nation state, each country can be assigned a value of how much power it wields in the international system. And then once you assign different countries a particular power coefficient, you can actually rank those countries according to power. Now, in international relations theory, there are 2 different kinds of power which are normally recognized. Hard power of any country, of any nation state, is the power which can be easily measured. So economic size, the size of your economy, is part of a country, a nation state's hard power. Per capita income, size of your GDP, is all part of hard power. The military preparedness of your nation state, the military size of your country, the size of your armed forces, the kind of platforms and equipment that they have, is also part of hard power. So hard power is easily measurable. What is soft power? Soft power is more ephemeral. It's not easy to understand. It's not easy to measure. So let me talk a little bit about what could be the elements of India's soft power. And this is not an exhaustive listing, it's only an indicative listing. Indian cuisine is popular all over the world. Chicken tikka masala is the favorite dish in the United Kingdom. So Indian cuisine is a part of India's soft power. Yoga is being practiced in every corner of the globe. So yoga is a part of India's soft power. Hindi movies, Bollywood movies, and the songs in those movies are popular in many different parts of the world and therefore can be counted as part of India's soft power. Now, comprehensive national power is nothing else but an addition of your hard power and your soft power. Now, when I started, I said that these three events show that India's comprehensive national power is expanding, it's growing, it's increasing. Now, let me share with you three examples from my own diplomatic life, which also prove this point. In the mid-1990s, I was posted in Berlin, Germany, and as part of my job, I asked to see the chief editor of one of the major newspapers of Germany. He was stationed there in Berlin. What happened? Immediately, I got a call from his office saying, what exactly is it that you want to discuss with him? How much time do you think it will take for you to discuss these ideas and issues with him? Do you think it is absolutely essential to meet physically, or can it be a phone call? So they tried their best to put me off, but I wouldn't be put off. Finally, I got a meeting with not the chief editor, but one of his deputies. Today, if a young Indian diplomat stationed in Berlin, Germany, were to ask for a similar meeting with the chief editor of a German newspaper, he or she will get it within a couple of days. Why? Because of India's enhanced, increased, rising, comprehensive national power, rising national influence, and rising status in the international community. A second example, when I was stationed in Beijing, China, as India's ambassador to China in 2017 and 2018, a lot of my other ambassadorial colleagues from other countries, other nation states, who are also stationed in Beijing, would tell me that it was very difficult to get an appointment with their counterparts in the Chinese Foreign Ministry or the Chinese Ministry of External Affairs. Some of them told me and shared with me that it took almost 3 to 4 weeks for them to get such a meeting. Now, when I, the representative of India, asked for such a meeting, I would normally get it in 3 or 4 days. Why? Because of India's rising national strength, because of India's rising comprehensive national power, because of India's greater influence in the Committee of Nations. Third example, not from my diplomatic life, but something I saw on YouTube recently. The Bollywood film star Akshay Kumar, in a YouTube interview, shared with the interviewer that he had recently moved back to his Indian nationality and therefore traveled across the globe using an Indian passport. And he shared with the interviewer that in almost every country that he went, he was greeted by the immigration officers with a lot of courtesy, and he was allowed to pass through without any problem at all. So Akshay Kumar was talking about the power of the Indian passport. And where does that come from? From India's growing comprehensive national strength, from India's growing influence on the world stage. Now, as we move ahead, most countries across the world believe that India is an important player in international affairs. And therefore, they think that India is a part of the solution to most global issues. And there are many global issues to which I will come to in a little while. So many countries ask us, what is your position on such and such an issue? What does India think about such and such a thing? And therefore, it is incumbent on India, Indians, the government of India, but equally all of us here, to think about international issues, global issues, and take a position on them. How does India come to a position on international and global issues? So first of all, what we keep in mind is India's own national interest. What is of India's interest? What is it that India wants or desires or seeks from a particular international subject? But apart from that, there is a whole amount of Indian history, Indian geography, and Indian culture, Indian philosophy, which also goes into our decision making. And there it is very important to decipher and distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, between good and evil. Now, when I talk about what is right and wrong, what is good and evil, many of you will say, this is what we call dharma in India. Distinguishing between good and bad, between evil and good, between right and wrong, is what we study and learn in our culture as dharma. So apart from national interest, there is an element of dharma in Indian decision-making on global issues. And let me just give you one example from today's life, from today's world. On the 7th of October, as all of you know, Hamas launched an attack on Israel. Now, India immediately said that this was a terrorist attack. We did not equivocate. We said very clearly on the 7th of October itself that this is a terrorist attack on Israel. But as the conflagration continued, as days passed, we also saw that ordinary Palestinian people were left without food, were left without water, did not have hospitals to go to, and many of their homes were also bombed. And therefore, India decided that we will send relief supplies and relief material to the Palestinians. That was what was right, and therefore we did it. So a lot of people have described this way of thinking in international politics, in geopolitics, which is very, very unusual, because most countries, most governments only keep their national interest in mind. India keeps also what is right and wrong in mind while deciding on its national policies. And many people have described this as the India way. This is the India way of thinking. This is the India way of deciding on international politics and international affairs. Now, there are many things which contribute towards India's decision-making, because we are consulted all the time on many, many global issues, whether it's a question of war and peace, whether it is a question of alleviating global poverty across the world, whether it is a question of restructuring the multilateral development banks like the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, whether it is a question of how you reform and restructure the United Nations itself. India is consulted on each and every one of these important global issues, and we take decisions on them based partially on our national interest, but also partially on what is right and wrong, what is called dharma. Now, as we move ahead, we will realize that there will be more problems of this kind, and as India, which is already the 5th largest economy in the world, and is on track to become the 3rd largest economy in the world by 2030, will be asked and called upon to take decisions and to help out. So we do accept that we are a large economy, but we also argue that we have a large population, and therefore we have a lot to do in improving the living standards of our people. There is a lot to do to ensure that every Indian gets a job. There's a lot to do to ensure that every Indian has 3 square meals a day and a roof over his or her head. And therefore, we also argue that we are a developing country. The absolute size of our GDP may be big, but in per capita terms, we are still a developing country. And therefore, India identifies with what is now called as the Global South, which is nothing else but all the developing nations put together. And that is what came out during the G20 summit when we moved and got admission for the African Union into the G20, a big step, and that is why you see the head of the African Union hugging our Prime Minister in those photographs which were sent over our television screens. So these are the many ways in which India is being consulted in international affairs, because our objective is to ensure that we become a developed country. Now, One of the goals of this particular government is that India needs to be a developed country by 2047. Now, the question that will arise in all our minds, mine as well as yours, that as an ordinary citizen, as an ordinary Indian, how do I contribute towards this goal? How do I help in achieving this goal? And each one of us has his or her own profession. Some of us are doctors, some of us are lawyers, some are engineers, some are agricultural workers, some are radio jockeys, some are IT experts. So the question that comes to each of us is, how does one contribute towards this increasing comprehensive national power of India? How does one contribute to ensuring that India becomes a developed country? Now, the answer to that in my mind is very clear, that each one of us needs to do his or her job, whatever that job is, to the best of our ability. We have to do it with perseverance, we have to do it with dedication, we have to do it with a lot of hard work. So I would say to all of you that the way each one of us can contribute towards this national goal of enhancing India's comprehensive national strength, of increasing India's comprehensive national power, of expanding India's influence on the world stage, is by doing our own jobs to the best of our ability. And always keep in mind that while you do that, while we try to work towards ensuring that India's comprehensive national power expands even more, we must keep in mind what is right and what is wrong. So we have to work towards expanding India's influence, but we have to do it the India way, which distinguishes between right and wrong. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening.